Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. Wanted to do a video for you guys today on some things that my dad taught me about catching bait and catching fish. I think a lot of these things cross over into preparedness. A lot of preparedness videos will talk about carrying fishing equipment and stuff, but not a lot of them will get into sort of the specifics. And the things my dad taught me were really, really simple. And I think that they can help somebody out. So I want to go ahead and I want to share sort of my dad's tips on some of these things. Now, my dad was disabled. And even though he was disabled, he was a heck of a fisherman. He was a great fisherman, actually. And another thing that my dad did was he caught night crawlers. And he would catch night crawlers and he would actually sell them for spare money because he couldn't. Hold down a regular 9 to 5 job because of his disability. But we would go and catch night crawlers, and he would sell them, and he would also do different things. To catch night crawlers for his own personal use. And the one thing that he would do, he would find an area that was a little bit shady, that had good black earth. He would rake that area, and then he would put a board down over top of that after he would water it. He would catch a little rainwater and he would sprinkle that rainwater over that area, and he would put a board over that, or he would put buckets over that. And what that would do is that would cause those night crawlers to come to the surface. So then when he would want to go fishing, he would actually move the bucket, or he would lift the board up, and there would be several night crawlers that would be underneath that board, and he would pick them up, and that's how he would go fishing. And then another thing that he would do for bait, after he would catch a couple of fish, panfish like bluegill or perch or something like that, he would actually take the eyes out of those fish, and he would use those for bait. So basically, if you caught one or two fish, you had enough bait for your next fishing trip. And my dad also mowed the cemetery. That was one of the jobs that he did. There's a couple fairly large cemeteries around here, and he had jobs working for the church mowing those cemeteries. But then that also gave him the ability to go up to those cemeteries after a warm rain. We would go up there with flashlights and milk jugs with a hole cut in the top of them, and we would basically catch night crawlers, because after a warm rain in the spring and the summer, those night crawlers would come up to the top, and you could basically just see them with a flashlight, and you'd catch them and drop them into the milk jug. And that's what my dad would sell, to the people coming up here. And he actually had people that would tell him on specific days, hey, we need 4 dozen night crawlers or whatever, and he would always have them ready for him. And that's how my dad made money when he was disabled, when I was a kid growing up. And a lot of the fishing stuff that he used was basic and really, really simple. And there were three lures in particular that I always remember my dad using. And one was a perch rig. Another one is daredevils and spoons. And then the other one was Mepps spinners. And I got examples of all of those sitting out here for you guys. And the first one is what you would use the live bait on. And that is a perch rig. And basically a perch rig is just a piece of monofilament that has another piece of monofilament crimped onto it that swivels like this right here, with a bead or something to sort of attract the fish's attention, and then a hook underneath it where you put your live bait on. And then there's typically two hooks on that. And then at the end, there'll be a snap leader like that right there, where you can put whatever weight on that you would need to get this to the bottom and anchor that on the bottom. And the advantages of this is you can add more weight if you need it. So you're better off, instead of having one big gigantic sinker, you're better off having a half a dozen smaller sinkers, and you can adjust the weight however you need it then, because you can add more than one sinker onto this. And the thing with perch rigs is it's a sort of local um, fishing lure. And as a general rule, whatever area you're in, if you can find local stuff that's made in your own state, that's going to be the best for the fish in your area, because those people know those um, fishing techniques, and they know how to make that stuff. And these are what a perch rig looks like in the package. And these are actually made here in Michigan. And the big thing, you can see the number on the top there, that's a 6. That denotes the size of the hook. So if you want a smaller hook, you're going to go with a larger number. Like an 8 is a smaller than a 6, and then a 4 is larger than a 6. So depending on what this target species of fish is, you're going to be able to adjust your hook size for that fish. Another two things that Dad always had in his tackle box that he uses was spoons. And a spoon is basically a big stamped piece of metal like this with a treble hook on it. And you cast this out, and when that twists through the water, that'll flash. These work particularly well. These are red and white ones, or Daredevil colors. They're actually called, the original one of these is actually called a Daredevil. These would spur hits for really aggressive fish. So if you had pike or largemouth bass, you casted one of these, that would pretty much make them mad, and they would come out and they would strike these. And an actual Daredevil will sort of look like this here, because it'll have a little devil emblem on it. And then there are different types of spoons, and Cleos are another one. They got a little bent, you can see here, they got a little bit of a different curve to them, so they move through the water a little bit differently. And then you can get some that actually have iridescent paint on it, so these will actually glow in the dark if you're fishing a little bit toward dark, and which is actually a really good time to fish. And another type of spoon that not a lot of people know about anymore, but they're called a Russian hook. And what a Russian hook is it's actually an ice fishing lure that you would jig up and down through a ice fishing hole. But these work particularly well off of bridges, because you're suspended over the river, and you can jig these just right straight up and down, and these will flash with a little bit of bait on it. These are an extremely effective lure in the spring especially. And there's always room in a tackle box for something like this. I actually have quite a few of these, sort of the local made ones here that I remember growing up. Another thing was the spinners. Dad always used Mepps spinners, and what a spinner is it's a little flash, a little spoon that actually spins around, little blade, as you reel it in. So as you're reeling it in, this is going to spin and flash, and then whatever hair or synthetic material is on the back of this is going to sort of make an enticing movement, I guess is the best way. And one cool thing about Mepps spinners use squirrel tail hair, and you can actually still take your squirrels that you go and hunt in the fall, and you can harvest the tails off of them, so all of the animal gets used. So you're going to use your squirrel for your dinner, but then you can take the tail and you can actually send that back to Mepps, and Mepps will reimburse you in lures. Or they used to do money back when I was a kid, but I don't think they do that anymore. I think that they just do lures nowadays. But yeah, you can actually send your squirrel tails in if you're a squirrel hunter. And nothing has the action quite like squirrel hair. Squirrel hair has just a really specific action that causes an enticing movement, basically. And then the one last thing I want to mention here is bobbers. You know, there'd be a lot more fish fries if people use bobbers, but a lot of guys will kind of poo-poo on bobbers. Oh, well, that's just for kids or whatever. But I'm here to tell you, if you got a lot of line that's let out, and there's nothing better than a bobber to let you know that you have a hit, because sometimes you have so much line out, there's a little bit of slack in it, the real small bites you're going to miss. And there's a couple different kinds of bobbers. There's ones that just clip on, like this one right here with the spring, and then there's slip bobbers that you would use with a bobber stop. And a bobber stop is basically just a little knot that you tie in your line that doesn't interfere with your casting, but then it allows you to set your bobber at a specific depth. So if you're fishing in 20 feet of water and all the fish are at 10 feet, you can set your bobber stop at 10 feet, and then your bobber will suspend your bait at 10 feet where the fish are. So anyway, there's just some things that my dad taught me about catching bait, and the different lures that he used to great success when I was a kid, and things that he passed down to me that I want to pass down to you guys. But anyways, Modern Refugee, appreciate all my subscribers out there. I hope you guys got a little information, a little entertainment out of this video here, and you guys have a good one.